Good morning. Thank you for joining me. My name is SeanTombe. I'm the regional geologist in northwestern BC. I work for the BC Geological Survey, and today I'm going to be presenting on exploration and mining in northwestern BC, talking about some of the mines and selected exploration projects from 2020. To give you a little bit of a brief agenda, we're going to be talking quickly about the mining regions in BC, the BC mineral production, exploration expenditures, and other statistical trends, talking about the metal endowment, some of the mines in the area, some of the proposed mines, and also some of the selected exploration targets in the region. When we're discussing the mining regions, what does that mean in British Columbia? Well, there's 6 of them. Today we'll be discussing the Northwest region. And from the map on the right, you can see the mines and exploration projects that were active last year. There's a lot of them in northwestern BC, and we'll be discussing many of them today. So when describing the BC mineral production from last year, we've got a 2020 forecast value of $9 billion, over $9 billion. You can see that coal really dominates the pie chart, but also copper and gold take up a big part of that as well. When looking and describing the exploration expenditures and the drilling amounts from last year, on the top left, there's a graph chart showing the exploration expenditures by region. The provincial total was $422.7 million spent last year in exploration, whereas the Northwest, there was $225.3 million spent, which is significant. That's over half of the provincial total. And then in the bottom left, you can see the exploration drilling by region, a total of 991,000 meters drilled. In the Northwest again, 470.1 thousand meters drilled, pretty extensive. And then you're looking at the pie chart, exploration by category. So you can see in the Northwest, at least, that a lot of the exploration that was done was mainly in advanced, early stage, and also in mine evaluation. The chart before you now is built by Natural Resources Canada, or NRCan, and is meant to show the expected or forecasted 2020 exploration expenditure values for each of the provinces, but also totaling for Canada. What the takeaway from this is to show that 10% of those expenditures were spent in northwestern British Columbia, which is very significant. What you'll notice when you analyze the BC exploration expenditures through time is 2 things. One of which is the Northwest region, which is the top line in this graph, is far exceeding the other regions, which are the other colors in the graph. And the other thing you'll notice too, over time in 2012 was quite high. We've had a decrease in expenditures, but now in 2020, we're approaching the expenditures of 2012. It's probably not a coincidence that the gold price has also done the same thing that the expenditures in the Northwest region have, where in 2012 were quite high, but then fell off to 2014, 2015, 2016 to 2018, and then increased after that and are at all-time highs right now in 2020 and 2021. In 2020, there were several operating mines in northwestern British Columbia. Moving from north to south, starting with Silvertip. Silvertip operated in parts of 2020, so we include it as an operating mine. Other operating metal mines include Red Chris and Brucejack. Brucejack is an intermediate sulfidation epithermal gold-silver deposit. It formed about 185 to 183 million years ago. The reserves and resources are incorporated into both the Valley of the Kings, VOK, where they're currently mining, and the West Zone deposits. The indicated and measured mineral resource of this deposit is 23.2 million tons, grading 10.1 gram per ton gold and 65 gram per ton silver. It also has a proven and probable reserves of 15.7 million tons, grading 8.4 gram per ton gold and 59.6, so almost 60 gram per ton silver. In 2020, the production was almost 350,000 ounces and an average grade of 8.5 gram per ton gold. Currently, they're infill drilling on the deposit at VOK, and also drilling off a geophysical anomaly below West Zone that has coincident anomalous copper mineralization and porphyry-style alteration. Red Chris is another operating mine in the region. It's a porphyry copper gold deposit forming about 204 million years ago. It's a joint venture between Newcrest Mining, owning 70%, and Imperial Metals, owning 30%. Last year's production in 2020 was 88 million pounds of copper and almost 74,000 ounces of gold, which is a very large increase from the 2019 production numbers. This year, resource definition drilling was also completed and confirmed several discrete high-grade pods in the East Zone. Highlights from this infill drilling included 514 meters grading 1.3 gram per ton gold and 0.77% copper, including 166 meters grading 3 gram per ton gold and 1.5% copper. As I alluded to earlier, the Silvertip project was only operating for a portion of 2020. The Silvertip deposit is a manto-style silver-lead-zinc carbonate replacement deposit forming about 70 million years ago. At the end of February last year, the company announced a temporary suspension of mining and processing, placing the project on care and maintenance. So last year in that first quarter, they ended up producing 139,000 ounces of silver, almost 2.5 million pounds of zinc, and 2.18 million pounds of lead. This year, exploration was mainly directed at building the resource and extending the mine life. And so early drill results indicate the potential for resource growth along a 3.5 kilometer north-south strike length. And this prompted the company to spend almost $1 million into underground development, and that would facilitate the follow-up of drilling to again expand those resources. Now we'll spend some time talking about some of the proposed mines in northwestern BC. A proposed mine is a feasibility stage project for which the proponents have begun or completed the environmental certification process, or have submitted or received approvals for Mine Act permits. So moving from north to south, the Cucho property, Galore Creek, KSM, Premier, Red Mountain, Dome Mountain, and the Tenas project. So that was a lot of proposed mines. We're not going to talk about all of them. We don't have time to talk about all of them, but we'll talk about a few. We'll start with Dome Mountain. It's an orogenic style gold silver deposit. In July, a 43-101 came out with an indicated resource of 227,000 tons grading 10.71 gram per ton gold, and an inferred resource of 530,000 tons grading 7.5 gram per ton gold. The company has, for the project, a Environmental Management Act permit and a mining permit, providing an annual production of up to 75,000 tons. Last year in 2020, there was property-wide geophysics and approximately 3,500 meters were drilled. This year, they're beginning a new program, which they're drilling 20,000 meters, and it's currently underway. Another proposed mine in the Northwest region is the Premier Gold Project, owned by Ascot Resources. It's an intermediate sulfidation epithermal gold-silver deposit that formed about 85 million years ago. The focus of exploration last year was the drilling of about 12,000 meters, which tested several zones of mineralization, including the Premier West, Day, Silver Hill, and Woodbine zones. Highlights from the drilling included 6 meters of 40.78 gram per ton gold at the Premier West project, or the zone, 1 meter of 1,300 gram per ton silver at Silver Hill, and also they published a feasibility study, and that included Red Mountain, which is another proposed mine that Ascot also owns, and that's right next door. The company also applied for a Mines Act and Environmental Management Act permit amendment, and construction, which is scheduled for 2021, is contingent on receiving these permits. The KSM project, owned by Seabridge Gold, is a porphyry copper, gold, silver, molybdenum calc-alkaline deposit forming about 190 million years ago. The deposit consists of 4 porphyry copper deposits, the Kerr, Sulphurets, Mitchell, and Iron Cap, and notably now the Snowfield deposit, which was bought from Peridium Resources for $100 million this last year. It's collectively one of the largest undeveloped gold projects in the world by resources. Measured and indicated resources of 3 billion tons grading half gram per ton gold, 0.21% copper, 2.8 gram per ton silver, and 0.0048 molybdenum. A preliminary economic assessment was published in April this last year, and it proposed a mine life of 44 years, producing 27.6 million ounces of gold and 17 billion pounds of copper. And that's discounting, it's not including the Snowfield deposit. The initial capital to build this mine is for development is about $5.2 billion with a 4-year payback period. This year, no exploration work was done on the project, although 4,000 meters was done in geotechnical drilling along the Mitchell Treaty tunnels. The last proposed mine that we're going to discuss today is the Galore Creek project, owned by Galore Creek Mining Corporation, which is a joint venture between Teck Resources, owning 50%, and Newmont Corporation, owning the other 50%. It's a porphyry copper gold alkalic deposit forming between 210 and 202 million years ago. No work was done this year because of COVID, other than environmental baseline sampling, which continued. The project has a measured and indicated resource of 1.1 billion tons, grading 0.47% copper, 0.26 gram per ton gold, and 4.2 gram per ton silver. All right, moving along, we're going to talk about some of the selected exploration projects in northwestern BC. And of course, notice in the central part of northwestern BC that cluster of active projects. This area is loosely defined as the Golden Triangle, which extends a little bit north of Red Chris, all the way down almost to Antioch, and then over past Galore Creek. The Golden Triangle has many, many active projects and even mines operating within its bounds. On the right-hand side, you can see the whereabouts of most of these active projects. In the Northwest region, most people have heard of or know about the Golden Triangle, but for those of you that don't know about the Golden Triangle, wanted to put together a slide showing the total potential value of this area. So the title there, you can see that there's $0.8 trillion or $835.9 billion in potential value in this area, and that's assuming full extraction, 100% recovery, and calculated using the current commodity prices. This data was retrieved from digital geodata, and on the left you can see that there's 221 million ounces of gold. Copper stands at 93 billion pounds of copper, and silver at 1.7 billion ounces of silver, molybdenum 3.3 billion pounds of molybdenum, and on the left is broken out by the proportions of metal value. Moving over towards the right, I've got a breakdown for copper and a breakdown for gold by category. The point here is that the production the historic production and current production is basically only a fraction of the amount of compliant reserves, measured and indicated resources, and inferred resources. So there's a lot still left to mine in this area. So stepping away from the Golden Triangle just for a few minutes, we're going to go from north to south, talking about some of the other selected exploration projects. First up is the Cassiar Gold Project. The Thorn Project, which encompasses both the Metla and Trapper projects, which were both acquired last year. Near Chesley, the Hat Project. As we move south on the map, we've now gotten back into the Golden Triangle again, at which point we're going to talk about Tatoga, the Tatoga Project, which includes 3 distinct deposits and prospects, including the Saddle North Deposit, Saddle South Deposit, and the Quash Pass Target. And just north of the SK Camp, the Newmont Lake Project. The Cassiar Gold Project is owned by Cassiar Gold, formerly Margo Resources. There was a name change last year. It's an orogenic style gold deposit. Historical workings extend across a 15 by 10 kilometer trend and produced historically 350,000 ounces of gold between 1979 and 1997. Tailings at Table Mountain, which is south of the highway, have an estimated grade of 1 gram per ton, and there's 600,000 tons of this material. Exploration last year was 5,000 meters of drilling focused on the Taurus deposit or target, which is north of the highway, and mainly used for infill drilling and also some exploration drilling. Highlights include 32.79 meters grading 1.78 gram per ton gold. Just want to throw in some rock pictures now. On the right, you can see an extensional quartz vein with crack and seal texture. The picture in the bottom left is at Table Mountain, which is south of the highway. It's of the Volog quartz vein, and it contains pyrite, disseminated pyrite with tourmaline stylolites. The Thorn Project is owned by Brixton Metals. It has porphyry copper gold and epithermal low sulfidation and high sulfidation gold silver deposits. The company increased the overall land package of Thorn last year by optioning the Metla and Trapper projects. Approximately 5,200 meters of drilling was conducted on Thorn last year, where highlights include 439 meters grading 0.43% copper equivalent. Also, more than 5,000 soil and 1,200 rock samples were collected, with highlights of 68.8 gram per ton gold from the West Outlaw Zone and 7.21% copper from Camp Creek. The Hat Project is owned by Doubleview Gold Corp and is west of Dees Lake and northwest of Telegraph Creek. It's a porphyry copper gold alkalic deposit. Last year, 4,000 meters of drilling was used to test gold and copper mineralization identified at surface and with coincident geophysics, and also to test and expand upon the known depth of mineralization in the Lisley zone. Follow-up drilling this year intersected an interval containing visible gold, and in notably 2019, there's an intersection of 612 meters grading 0.19 gram per ton gold, 0.25% copper, and 84 ppm cobalt. The Tatoga project is just northwest of the community of Biscuit. It's owned by GT Gold Corp and has many different deposits and targets within its bounds, one of which is the Saddle North deposit, which is a porphyry copper gold deposit. And it had a maiden resource come out last year where it had an indicated resource containing 1.81 billion pounds of copper, 3.47 million ounces of gold, and an inferred resource containing 2.98 billion pounds of copper and 5.46 million ounces of gold. It also has a preliminary economic assessment that is currently being worked on and is targeted to be released in the first quarter of this year. Also, there's a relog program at Saddle South also being done at this time, which the Saddle South deposit is an intermediate sulfidation epithermal gold silver deposit. Exploration last year at Tatoga was mainly found at Quash Pass, where 4,800 meters of drilling was completed in 9 diamond drill holes and was testing 2 anomalous geochemical trends spanning 6 kilometers. The Newmont Lake project is owned by Enduro Metals. It's prospective for epithermal, skarn, and alkalic porphyry deposits. This year, exploration included IP geophysics, hyperspectral geochemical surveys in conjunction with lithological and alteration mapping, and also some drilling. Previously unsampled core from a former operator assayed and returned 144 meters grading 3.18 gram per ton gold and 3.66 gram per ton silver. 6,000 meters of diamond drilling was also completed this year, where step-out drilling at the newly discovered northeast extension assayed 8.8 meters grading 31.09 gram per ton gold and 1.7% copper. Okay, moving more south, we're going to talk about some of these selected exploration projects that I've got a circle that are basically contained within the SK camp. Notably, on the right, there's a picture there of the SK Creek project. We'll also be discussing the SNP project. Adjacent to SK Creek is the Corey and the SIB project owned by SK Mining Corp. At Nickel Mountain, the E&L project. The Iskit project, which also contains the former producing Johnny Mountain mine. The SK Creek project is owned by Skeena Resources, and it is a VMS-style gold, silver, lead, zinc deposit forming about 175 million years ago. It was an underground mine that operated from 1994 to 2008 and produced 3.3 million ounces of gold and 160 million ounces of silver, with average grades of 45 gram per ton gold and 2,224 gram per ton silver. This last year, Skeena exercised its option to acquire 100% of the property from Barrick Gold, where Barrick still retains 12.4% of the property. This last year, there were 6 to 12 helicopter and ground-supported drill rigs, and where they were focusing on drilling the 21A, 21B, and 21C zones, and ended up drilling approximately 88,000 meters of core. Highlights from this drilling include 42.59 meters grading 7 gram per ton gold and 665 gram per ton silver in 21C zone, 35 meters grading 21, almost 22 gram per ton gold and 235 gram per ton silver in 21A zone, and 56 meters grading 2 gram per ton gold and 234 gram per ton silver in 22 zone. This slide just shows all the drill pads and helicopter supported pads for the drilling that they did last year. It was one of the largest programs of an advanced stage project. The SNP project is also owned by Skeena Resources. It's a combination between an intrusion-related gold, copper, molybdenum, zinc, and orogenic style vein deposit. It was mined between 1991 and 1999, producing about 1 million ounces of gold, and that was at an average grade of 27.5 gram per ton. This last year, an independent technical report was filed where there was an indicated resource of 244,000 ounces of gold, contained ounces. The company also began a late program drilling 5,000 meters in the fall and is also scheduled to start drilling again. The SIB and Corey projects are owned by SK Mining Corp and are prospective for VMS-style mineralization. The projects are adjacent to the past producing SK Creek mine, which we already discussed and talked about. This last year, a review of historic diamond drill core was completed and found that stratiform sulfide mineralization was found at the TV and Jeff prospects. Feeder style mineralization was found at Cumberland, Red Lightning, Sib, and Lulu prospects. And sulfite mineralization, which is indicative of white smoker origin, was found at the C10 prospect. Last year, approximately 4,000 meters of core was drilled, with highlights including 11.24 meters grading at 1.23 gram per ton gold and 201 gram per ton silver. This map on the right shows the land positioning of SK Mining Corp and showing several prospects within all of its bounds. The ENL project is owned by Garibaldi Resources and is a tholeiitic intrusion-hosted nickel, copper, platinum group element deposit. The ENL property is one of only 2 known high-grade magmatic nickel, copper, PGE massive sulfide projects in the Canadian Cordillera, and the deposit contains pyrrhotite, penlandite, and chalcopyrite in an olivine gabbro stock that was intruding lower Jurassic sedimentary and volcanic rocks. Drilling in 2020 extended the overall strike length of the ENL intrusion from 200 all the way to 600 meters and to a depth of 578 meters. Highlights from the drilling included 151.6 meters grading 0.56% nickel and 0.61% copper. The Iskit project is owned by Seabridge Gold and also contains the past producing Johnny Mountain mine. It's a porphyry copper gold deposit where last year almost 9,000 meters was drilled in 11 holes, where it was guided by anomalous surface gold and copper mineralization and a large geophysical anomaly. Initial results include the intervals up to 158 meters grading 0.16 gram per ton gold and 0.16% copper. Okay, as we continue our southerly path, talking about some of the exploration projects in the region, we're going to be discussing the Treaty Creek project, Bowser Regional Exploration, which is adjacent to the Bruce Jack mine, and the Dolly Varden project. The Treaty Creek project is owned by Tudor Gold, owning 60%, Teuton Resources, 20%, and American Creek Resources owning the remaining 20%. It's a porphyry copper gold deposit. Last year, over 44,000 meters of core was drilled, mainly at the Gold Storm Zone and the newly discovered Perfect Storm Zone. The project is uncovering potential for large-scale porphyry mineralization with highlights of 348 meters grading 2.04 gram per ton gold and 4.13 gram per ton silver within a larger interval of 930 meters of 1.07 gram per ton gold and 2.8 gram per ton silver, and many other intersections like this. The Sulphurates Thrust Fault continues along trend from KSM all the way over to Treaty Creek and is considered to be a reactivated basinal structure that may have influenced the emplacement of mineralization at Treaty Creek. The Bowser Regional Program is run by Purdium Resources, and the land is prospective for porphyry copper gold, epithermal gold silver, and VMS-style mineralization and deposits. In 2020, more than 25,000 meters was drilled on the Bowser claims, where 9,800 meters was drilled at Hanging Glacier, almost 12,000 meters was drilled at A6, and the remaining almost 4,000 meters was drilled for follow-up on epithermal and porphyry copper gold mineralization at Kupa, Snowfield East, and Himalaya. Highlights last year come from drilling at Hanging Glacier, where there was 13 meters with 9.5 gram per ton gold in a larger interval of 102 meters with 2.1 gram per ton gold. The Dolly Varden project is owned and operated by Dolly Varden Silver Corp and is south of Stewart. It's a VMS-style deposit. The mine was discovered by 4 prospectors in the early 1900s and produced more than 20 million ounces of silver between 1910 and 1959. This last year, more than 10,000 meters of core was drilled and focused on resource expansion and step-out targets. Highlights included 2.70 meters grading greater than 1,000 gram per ton silver. Okay, as we continue talking about selected exploration projects, we find ourselves moving more south, and we're going to be discussing the Buck project. Exploration that was done beneath the East Zone pit at Huckleberry, and also work that Surge Copper is doing over at Utsa. The Buck project is owned and operated by Sun Summit Minerals. It's an epithermal polymetallic vein deposit where sulfides are present in veinlets, disseminations, and coarse fracture fillings, and mainly within rhyolitic breccias. There was 2 phases of drilling last year. The first began in April and was 1,800 meters. Phase 2 began in September, drilling 4,200 meters. In the later drilling, most holes intersected vein pyrite, sphalerite, marcasite, chalcopyrite, and galena mineralization, which appear spatially related to pervasive silica, sericite, carbonate, clay alteration. Currently, they're also drilling 5,000 meters on the project right now. Highlights from last year included 17 meters grading 5.86 gram per ton gold, including 3 meters of 23.05 gram per ton gold. The Huckleberry project is owned by Imperial Metals. It's a porphyry copper gold molybdenum deposit forming about 82 million years ago. It was an open pit until shutting down in 2016 and has since been on care and maintenance. This last year, almost 2,500 meters of exploration drilling was used to test the mineralization extent below the East Zone pit, which produced 50 million tons of ore, grading 0.55% copper from 1997 to 2007. Results from this drilling include 361 meters grading 0.35% copper from 368 to 729 meters below the surface. The Utsa project is owned by Surge Copper and is a porphyry copper gold molybdenum silver deposit forming about 83 million years ago. The project is at the southeast end of a southeast trending belt of porphyry copper gold deposits and prospects, including the Lucky Ship, Berg, Whitting Creek, Huckleberry, Ox, and Seal deposits. This last year, on the property, 10,000 meters of core was drilled, where highlights include 700 meters grading 0.51% copper equivalent. Currently, they're expanding and drilling another 5,000 meters on the project as we speak. I hope you enjoyed this presentation and thank you very much for your time and attention.